Okay, well, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for coming to this info session about the Ireland program. My name is Scott Ozorowski. I work in the study abroad office and help coordinate some of the back-end logistical planning and the application process for the students for this program. But I'm going to turn over most of this presentation to the two faculty who are going to be leading the program. So why don't you go to the next slide, Jeff, and then the two of you can introduce yourselves and take it away.
All right. Why can't I? Sorry. There we go. Yeah, it's great to see you all today. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Jeff Carter. I'm a professor in the art school, formerly the Department of Art, Media, and Design. I primarily teach sculpture, but looking forward to working in a study abroad environment. The class I will teach on this program is Art 104, Creating Art, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. My name is Randy Hunold. I'm an assistant dean in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. And I also teach courses every so often for the departments of philosophy and environmental science and studies. And I also do pretty regularly a Discover Chicago class on natural Chicago. And I'm really pleased to be partnering with Jeff on this program. And we'll, discover more about it in a few minutes.
Great. So do you want me to just jump in here?
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so our program, Ireland, Art and Philosophy of the Environment. It's going to consist of 2 courses and 2 weeks of travel in Ireland. We have the dates set at June 17th through July 3rd, I believe. So that's just about a week after the spring term wraps up. And this program is focused on the Burren region of Western Ireland. It is a vast and very dramatic and beautiful landscape that's just south of the city of Galway on Ireland's west coast. The Burren landscape is very unique. It has a global geopark status from UNESCO. And it's one of the most unique landscapes that you can visit, and it's very open. These rocks that you see are limestone pavements, and it's an expansive exposed limestone. And inside the crevices of these they call them pavements, you'll find very rare combinations of plants. In addition to this, the landscape has Neolithic tombs, old castles, a really interesting, beautiful coastline, and of course, rich Irish culture.
If I could just add a
yes,
couple
please do.
points right now. Neither Jeff nor I have Irish heritage or have a significant Irish heritage, and neither one of us is trained as a scientist. And so we're coming to this program, or created this program, because I think in each our own way, we're very kind of captivated by this landscape that we've had a chance to experience a couple of times each. And we just see it as a kind of rich environment. And I mean that kind of with a small e, not, a sciencey environment, but a really rich environment to pause and think and create and just spend some time kind of observing this really fascinating place. And then hopefully we can, kind of transport those skills back to wherever we usually live, or wherever we end up living in the future.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Should I go to the next slide, or?
Yeah, please.
We want to make sure that if you're here today, you can ask a question about anything at any time. So please just jump right in if you want to hear more, or if you have any questions as we go.
Yeah, I think with only 3 of you here,
we can have a conversation.
yeah, we don't just unmute and start talking. You don't have to worry about a hand going up or anything.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Yeah, just a close up. So as Randy said, we have both spent some time in this region. I spent 2 consecutive summers at the Burren, and also as an artist in residence at the Burren College of Art, which is our host institution. So I got a chance to kind of lay the groundwork for this course kind of in the back of my mind, but also to just really grow to value, as Randy said, that opportunity to kind of slow down and really pay attention to one place. As you can see here, oh great, another student. One of the really unique things about our program is that it is almost exclusively in one location, with the exception of one brief overnight on a nearby island, which we'll talk about, and then the final 2 nights of the trip are in Dublin. But other than that, we're going to have a home base in the city, the village of Ballyvaughan, which means that we're not going to be spending all day on a bus going from one city to another and having to sort of, readjust to each new place. And I think that also affords like a greater depth of experience.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about the course that I'll be teaching. And I should just say too that what we're going to do in the fall or in the spring when we do the 2 courses that lead up to the trip is we're going to offer them both on the same night, only alternating weeks. So really each one of the courses will be meeting kind of 50% of the time that a regular 4-credit course will meet. We've got it scheduled, I think, for Monday nights tentatively. Here in the Lincoln Park campus. And so it's like one night art and the philosophy course, the next night the next week the art course, and so that we're going to try to, within the process of offering the courses that way, sort of model how we can prepare ourselves to integrate these 2 disciplines and these 2 kinds of practices once we get to Ireland.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. As Randy said, neither of us are scientists, but and so when we say environmental field studies, really we're talking about not a like a quantitative approach to studying the environment, but one of like a deep experience. That's going to be informed by reading philosophy before the trip and during, and also doing art projects that are dependent on presence, on being in the location. So that will mean drawing from nature and thinking about multimedia ways of recording our impressions and of the experience and the things that we discover. So one of the really great things I mentioned before, we have a host institution. It's the Burren College of Art. It's a small art college located near the village of Ballyvaughan. And they have, it's a small art college, but they are actually quite experienced with hosting study abroad groups from all over the world. And so in fact, during our trip, we will probably encounter other groups from other places at the same time. We will be afforded artist studios to work in while we're there. So every 2 of our students will have one very roomy art studio to work in, to sort of unpack and experiment and kind of move in for a 2-week period. Other things that the Burren College of Art has, they have, as I said, multi-purpose studio facilities. They have a very nice art gallery with international exhibitions that will be on view for at the time we're there. computer labs, there's a library, there's a cafe, and my favorite thing is the castle. This is the Newtown Castle. It's a 16th century tower house, and it's part of the campus, and students can use it. We can hold classes and discussions inside this castle. Students sometimes do projects inside of it, and the college will also be hosting, there's a lecture hall, and we'll be hosting talks for our group by local artists, geologists, or historians. Anything you want to add, Randy?
No, I can't wait. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Okay, so this environmental philosophy course is intended to sort of introduce us to some of the kind of current themes in environmental philosophy and to help us understand how philosophers think about our relationship or our embeddedness in the natural world, and ask questions about what it means to be natural versus what it means to be cultural, and how those two things are distinguished or maybe shouldn't be separated in a way. And so in addition to that kind of conceptual theoretical foundations, I want to also kind of turn our eye toward what's happening in Ireland, or how Irish thinkers have thought in a way about their place, the way we are going to try to think about the place that we're going to inhabit. And then also, we're just coming on the heels of, and it hasn't even finished yet, the COP26 meetings in Glasgow, Scotland. So I think that if you're not already kind of tuned into these kinds of environmental issues, these big global concerns like global warming, we'll talk about that in relation to travel and the sort of ethical component of what travel is and what travel means in a world where not everybody gets to travel, and sometimes travel has unintended consequences for things like pollution or infrastructure that could be displacing other kinds of human activity or natural activity. So that's a lot.
Mhm.
And, it's the idea that we're going to somehow put this into 5 meetings before we get over there is probably a little bit ambitious, but we'll try to read some things to get ourselves thinking a little bit. And then when we're over there, kind of try to continue the conversations and have them resonate with the place that we're in.
I'm very much looking forward to that personally, because the way that these conversations, these conversations unfold while we're actually in Ireland are going to be serendipitous. They'll be, they're not hard and fast where we're going to say we must meet right now and talk at 2 p.m. Rather, I think we're going to allow things to sort of occasionally happen very organically and respond to things that happen or that we come across or people we meet. And just as our impressions of this place kind of really sink in and develop. As Randy was talking about it, I was thinking to myself about one of the, as I mentioned before, one of the features of this landscape is the fact that it has been inhabited for such a long time. And there are Neolithic tombs that we can visit that have been there for thousands of years. There's a tomb that's older than Stonehenge that we can go visit. The very kind of famous and almost iconic dry stone walls that are built all over the landscape in Ireland when you look at the sheer volume of the rocks that people have stacked upon other rocks in order to form fences and through this landscape, is just mind-boggling, and it almost blends in. The human elements, the human-made elements of the landscape are in many cases so old and so integrated that it's almost hard to, like, where does that become landscape, and stop being sort of like an example of the built environment. Of course, it can be both. So that'll be that'll be something to look forward to as well. For my course, Art 104, it's called Creating Art, and this is the portion of the course that counts for the arts and literature domain credit. And for art majors, it can be applied towards one of the major credits through the art school. So I wanted to make sure that was, so it can be applied in the most effective way for art majors and non-majors. So the preliminary meetings before we leave for travel will be spent getting caught up on some general vocabulary about making art, learning about art materials and process, and some general techniques and materials. And then when we travel, we're going to spend a lot of time drawing from nature. Being out, a lot of our days are going to be spent outdoors, on excursions for 3 or 4 hours at a time, out in various parts of the landscape, whether it's up in the hills or at the shore, and observing and drawing from nature. The overall project that we'll be doing is to, by the end of the trip, the students will each have compiled their own field guide to the Burren. And again, a field guide, I think I'm using the term loosely, because a field guide that you might purchase or check out from a library is often going to be scientifically vetted and developed with particular expertise. But I think for an artistic field guide, it's going to be a book of impressions and response and reflection, augmented by any variety of media. So it can be not only drawings from nature, but maps and tracings or rubbings, and writing, journaling, photographs, ephemera, things that you've collected, leaves or ticket stubs or what have you. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how that, and we'll spend our time not only outside making work, but also, as I said, using the studio spaces there to further develop and sort of unpack our ideas and experiment further with other ways of creating expressive content.
I just have 2 quick comments to throw in here. One of my favorite books right now is called A Field Guide to Climate Anxiety, written by an environmental studies professor who had, over the course of years teaching environmental studies courses, realized that her students were filled with angst about the future and these kinds of questions. So she wrote a book that she calls A Field Guide, which is a way to help them cope with and sort of work through the anxiety that they're feeling about, say, climate change. And so I'm hopeful that we can incorporate those kinds of field guide elements to this particular production as well. So,
absolutely, yeah. Thanks, Randy. Okay, another view of the Burren, looking toward the village of Balivan, a small village. As you can see there on the lower right is the campus of the Burren College of Art with the 16th century tower house sticking up, and then in the back is the village. Any questions? Oh, yes, and there's a lot of farmland.
There's some really fun treks you can take through the countryside here and get up close and personal with sheep and other farm animals.
Yes. In fact, one of the excursions is to, first of all, has anybody seen the show Father Ted? Anybody? Scott, have you seen it? You saw it, right, Randy?
I did, yeah. I went to the internet and watched some.
Yeah, Father Ted. Well, this came up from our one of our hosts asked us. So it's an Irish sitcom. It's I think probably more than 20 years old at this point, but quite famous. And so one of the excursions is that we're going to meet with a farmer who will take us for a tour of his land, and he does and while he's doing this, he recites Yeats. So it's a Yeats recital on a farm, and then we have tea in his farmhouse, which is where the sitcom Father Ted was filmed. The same farmhouse. So you can see it if you watch the opening credits to Father Ted. You'll see the farmhouse that we will have tea in after hearing Yeats recital. But yes, as Randy said, hiking and walking is in this landscape is a natural thing to do. It's very popular. This town is along a sort of a hiker's thoroughfare called the Great Atlantic Way, I believe it's called, and it's sort of one portion of a vast network of well-known hiking routes across the UK and Ireland. Okay. Go on. Sorry, I'm trying to forward here, and there we go.
So I think the next couple of slides are just some shots and some descriptions of some of the places that are nearby where we'll be staying, and we'll take short excursions out to these places. As Jeff said, we're not going to be spending a ton of time on buses going in long distances, except to, once we land in Dublin, getting over to Ballyvaughan and back. But other than that, fairly short excursions to a variety of places nearby that have historical and kind of culturally relevant artifacts.
Yes. Yeah, I can't think of anything that's more than 30 minutes away. So on the left is the Cliffs of Moher, very famous dramatic cliffscape, and then on the right is one of the Neolithic portal tombs that we can see, and a church ruin. Yes, the host institution is going to arrange a lot of these kind of initial sightseeing tours, and then we will revisit some of them for our more extended excursions. This is a view of the cottage where students' apartments are. They're very comfortable. They've got laundry and kitchenettes, and in the village proper, which is not big, but there are convenience. There are places to get groceries and some pubs and restaurants for evening meals. There's a farmer's market. I'm trying to remember what else there is. Yeah, another slide just kind of showing other views of a major activity, which is to hike the landscape. We spend a lot of time there. Yes, the Burren Geopark again is a UNESCO registered site. And forgive me, Scott, what does UNESCO stand for? Do you happen to know off the top of your head? I know it's United
Nations. That. I know United Nations something. So I'm looking it up right now, Googling. Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, to thank you to get UNESCO status for a geopark is fairly unusual, and it is one of the reasons why we feel this is such a great place to have this conversation about art and environment. Other excursions, we have an overnight at the island of Inisheer, which is a ferry ride, just a fairly short, I think maybe a 40-minute ferry from the town of Doolin, which we'll take a bus to, and take a ferry over to the island. The island is small enough that you can ride a bike around it in one afternoon, a long afternoon, but still. There's a shipwreck to explore there. There are dolphins in the bay. It's a very nice overnight excursion. And then on the bottom you see it's called the Long Room, which is the library at Trinity College. And so our last 2 days of the trip will be in Dublin. And there's several things to do in Dublin, including seeing the Book of Kells, which is probably the most famous illustrated manuscript. There'll be places to sample local live music, and I believe there's also a museum, the Museum of Ireland in Dublin as well.
Yeah, we'll be in Dublin for 2 nights. We'll, I think, head over on the last Friday, and so we'll be there for Friday evening, and then all day Saturday, and then we'll be coming back on Sunday. So we'll have time to both do organized group activities during that day and a half, and then also time for everyone to explore the city a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Randy, have you been to Trinity College?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Did you see the harp that they have here?
I don't think I did. Seems like I would remember that if I did, but yeah.
So many of you might know, like, the symbol of Ireland is a harp. And in fact, you also see it like, on certain labels, like the Guinness label, there's an Irish harp. In Trinity College, in the Long Room that you're looking at here, they actually have that very harp. It's thought to be the oldest sort of, existing Irish harp. And they've got it there in a glass case. It's the symbol of Ireland. They've got it. They won't let you play it. Okay. Some facts, right? I don't know.
Let me just pause really quickly, because before we move into some of the logistical stuff, does anyone have any questions about the trip itself, or what we'll be doing, or the courses beforehand? Oh, this is a great question from Hannah. Yeah, one part of this answer is, if you've taken either one of these courses before, you can take one or the other as SAP 398, I think it is. Maybe Scott can correct me if I have some of those details wrong. But there's an experiential learning version of each class. So, if
it'll be SAP 200.
200, thank you.
Exactly.
So if you're in this program, Scott or one of his colleagues will be reaching out to you to say, okay, which 2 courses do you want? And then you'll be taking either the SAP version of the philosophy course or the philosophy course, and likewise with the art course. So there's a little more versatility than we first described, actually. So that's a good thing. And then the other part of that question, Jeff, I think is yes, but I'm going to
in regards to photography.
Yeah,
absolutely. There is, the Burren College has a computer lab with, for working with digital photography, in terms of output. But I think that, I think that, there's a lot of time to be able to spend, working with taking pictures while we travel. I think it's a very photogenic place. And Hannah, are you an art major or art minor? You're minor, right? Is that what it says?
Minor, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you're an art minor. Again, if art majors or minors who have already taken Art 104, we also, in addition to everything that Randy said about the SAP credit, the director of the art school has agreed that art majors, so Art 104 is generally counted as a simple elective for art majors. it can be substituted for something like Art 105 or a different course that you could use for your minor or major. But again, these are, I guess, just to say that there are several avenues of flexibility to make sure that the courses that the credits you would earn while on this trip would be useful and not just.
Yeah, to clarify a little more too on the liberal studies domains, just so everybody understands. So the default is that one of these classes gives you your arts and literature learning domain. The second class gives you your philosophical inquiry domain. But either one of those you could substitute out and get experiential learning for it instead. So it'll be up to you sort of what you want to do to get two of those three domains that could be covered by this. If you've already taken any of those or all of those and just are taking this towards electives, then that's perfectly fine. But if you're looking to fulfill some of those domains, you'll be able to do two of those three of your choosing.
Scott, is it true that students can take SAP 200 or some SAP version of courses multiple times?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Great.
So that's, in the rare case that a student has taken both of these courses before, or has taken all three of these courses, they could actually take SAP 200 two more times and have it count.
Okay.
Right.
That's good to know. Good question. Thank you. Any others?
I just wanted to say that I'm really excited to looking forward to continuing the conversation about the ethics of travel and the environmental impact, and especially in a COVID world. I was really glad you mentioned something about that, and I'm really excited to, get the opportunity to talk about that with all of this. So
good. Yeah, I think it would be really negligent to ignore something like that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Should I go on to
Please.
the next slide? All right. The application deadline is February 1st. So you all, if you're here right now, you're very much on top of things, I think. So
yeah, and I can kind of talk about these next couple slides. I'll just kind of jump in. So yeah, February 1st is the deadline. In terms of the application process, for some of you may have already started the application, but if you haven't, go to the Ireland webpage. And it's right on the Study Abroad website that you just go to, and you can search for the Ireland programs. There are multiple programs that we do to Ireland, so make sure that you're doing the right one, the Art and Philosophy program. There is a main application questionnaire. There's just a handful of questions about why you want to do the program, basically. We do have one required online recommendation from a DePaul professor. They do not need to write you a big recommendation letter. All that you need to do is put their email address in the little place it asks for it, and it sends them a little online link where they complete a few questions online. So it's not a big commitment that they have to write a big something. And then once all of the applications have been submitted, Jeff and Randy are going to meet everybody for a brief interview, and that may be individually or it may be in small groups. Nothing to be stressed out about, just a great chance for them to kind of chat with everybody and get to know you a little bit. In terms of scholarships, there is actually no separate application for the study abroad scholarships. We do have specific study abroad scholarship funding to help pay for these programs. You don't need to do anything except get your application in on time to the program. So if you have applied to the program by February 1st, you'll automatically be considered for the study abroad scholarships. Sometimes we do extend the deadline for the program if you still have some spots available, but we never extend the scholarship deadline. So it's really important that you finish and submit your application by February 1st. Those scholarship awards are based on basically two things: your financial need, which is based on your FAFSA, and we get that information from the financial aid office, and then your academics, your GPA. So students who have a high financial need and a strong GPA are going to be the ones that are eligible for the highest awards. We have a number of awards up to $1,000, and then even some larger awards that can cover almost up to the full cost of the program. There are additional scholarships available that you may be able to apply for, and we have a big scholarships page where you can look at that. But our general study abroad scholarship, again, automatically considered as long as you get your application in by February 1st. And then you'll find out in mid to late February if you've been accepted to the program, and then if so, with the scholarship too, how much you may have gotten for that. And then let's see, and then the program fee. The cost for the program is just under $3,000, as well as the tuition for the 8 credit hours of the classwork you're taking. So just like a normal quarter. As long as you don't go over 18 total credit hours, you don't have to pay extra for those credits. So basically make sure when you're doing your registration to leave some space in your schedule. Don't register for more than 10 credit hours. And then the study abroad office will register you in the additional 8 credits. If you do go over 18 credit hours, just like any other quarter, you would just pay the extra tuition for anything over. And then that program fee is that additional $29.75. It's pretty inclusive. It includes your air trip, your airfare to and from Chicago to Ireland, all your accommodations, about half of your lunches and dinners, all of your course activities and excursions, transportation. It also includes international travel health and accident insurance. The main things it doesn't include is sort of the other half of your meals, which are ones that will just be on your own to do as you will. And then other just sort of personal expenses along the way. And then, yeah. And then one question that I got as well, we are recording this. So after this is done, I can send out a copy of it. And also it's going to be on the Ireland webpage. So that's probably the best place to look. So check back in a couple of days. I've got to download it and get it uploaded to our YouTube channel and kind of post it over. But if you go back in a couple of days to the Ireland webpage, it'll be right on the homepage. There'll be a link to the video.
I want to just add, I think this is really clear. Thank you, Scott. And something that a lot of students have asked me about is that even though the trip is in the summer, it is not counted as summer tuition. As Scott was just saying, it's part of your normal load of spring courses. And so if you don't go over over full time, there's, it's the same amount of tuition. It's not counted as additional tuition during the summer.
Yeah. And that's why we do it that way, so that you don't have to pay extra summer tuition and you can use your regular financial aid.
And just to go back to a comment I was making at the beginning about how we're running the course in the spring, because we're sort of obligated to meet for 30 hours every time we teach a 4-credit class, we faculty, we realized that we could very easily count 30 hours of contact time during our time in Ireland. So in a sense, we have 15 hours from each of Jeff's and my classes in the spring quarter, and then 30 more hours together actually doing course-related material, program-related material in Ireland, which is why we're able to offer the course basically in the time that you would ordinarily be taking to do one course. We're doing 2 courses. So it has that advantage as well. So if you were in a position where you did want to take an extra class or a 2-credit class, you probably would have the time to be able to do it in the spring as well. So there might be that like incidental benefit.
That's a good thought. Yeah, since we're condensing both our spring classes into on same time on Mondays, we're just going to alternate. Yeah, 2 for 1. I think that's okay. Just another recap page here. See some of the Irish spellings of some of the places that we're going to be going.
Yeah, if you moving forward, if you have questions, you can reach out to Jeff and Randy. Their emails are there about sort of specific about how the program is going to run. If you've got questions about more the application side of things, I'm there to kind of answer those as well. But yeah, any questions that anyone has, just pipe up or throw something in the chat. And if not, that just means that you guys did a great job, covered everything we needed to cover.
I'm just curious, how many times have you guys led this trip before?
0.
0 times.
Oh,
We had it planned, of course, for last year or for this summer,
Yeah.
but we couldn't do it because of COVID. But we've been cooking it up since what, 2017?
Roughly, yeah, it's 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And like I said, we've both been to the region. I've spent time at the Byrne College of Art 2 consecutive summers, and Randy has traveled there as well. And Randy's very experienced in study abroad trips to other places as well.
So inaugural trip. So it's exciting. You'll be
Yes.
pioneers, all of you doing this for the first time.
You'll probably able to get away with more than, than previous trips will.
Any other questions? All right, well, we'll stick around for a minute too, if anyone does have a question that they want to ask, they're not in the group. But thank you, all of you. For those of you who started an application, awesome. If not, please go ahead and get your application started, and feel free to reach out to us in the weeks ahead if you have any questions. But thank you for coming, and have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thanks for coming. Nice to see you all.